You think pulling away will make them chase you? It won't. In fact, it does the exact opposite. It hands them the permission slip they were already looking for to disappear completely. And here is the wild part. The thing that actually works feels so counterintuitive that most people never try it. They think it is too soft, too easy, too simple. But it is the one thing that makes an avoidant person stop running and start wondering. By the end of this, you are going to know exactly what to do, word for word, move by move. I am Liz Rose, a relationship expert, author, and researcher of emotional dynamics between men and women. For years, I have studied attraction, male behavior, emotional intelligence, and the patterns that bring people together or drive them apart. Today, I want to share with you what I have learned through my research, my professional experience, and the thousands of stories I have encountered throughout my journey. Let us talk about the avoidant person in your life. Maybe it is someone you dated. Maybe it is someone you are still seeing, but they keep pulling away every time things start to feel real. Maybe it is someone who just went cold on you out of nowhere, and you have no idea what you did wrong. You are sitting there refreshing your phone, replaying conversations, trying to figure out the moment everything shifted. And the worst part is, you probably did nothing wrong. That is what makes avoidant attachment so maddening to deal with. It is not always about you. It is about them. It is about the way they are wired, the way they have learned to protect themselves from intimacy by running from it the moment it starts to feel too close. But here is what nobody tells you. That wiring can be worked with. You do not have to sit there powerless. You do not have to beg. You do not have to pretend you are fine when you are not. And you definitely do not have to play games or go completely silent and hope for the best. There is a smarter way, a more human way, and it is called the soft contact method. When you use it correctly, something remarkable happens. The avoidant person who is pulling away starts to feel something they do not usually feel around people who like them. They feel safe. And that safety is the entire key. So let us start from the beginning. Let us talk about what actually makes someone avoidant. Because if you understand why they run, you will understand exactly why soft contact works so well on them. Avoidant people are not cold. They are not heartless. They are not emotionally unavailable because they enjoy it or because they want to hurt you. In my years of research and working with thousands of people, I have found that most avoidant individuals are some of the most feeling, sensitive, deeply emotional people you will ever meet. But at some point, usually early in life, they learned that closeness leads to pain, that needing people leads to disappointment, that opening up means making yourself vulnerable to someone who might leave, who might criticize, who might smother, who might not love you the way you need to be loved. And so they built walls. Not because they do not want connection, they desperately want it, but because somewhere deep in their nervous system, closeness equals danger. So what happens when you show interest in an avoidant person? What happens when you text too much, or express how much you like them too quickly, or make them feel like you need them? Their nervous system starts to panic. Not because of you specifically, but because intimacy is being offered and their internal alarm system goes off. Get out. This is going to hurt. This person is going to want too much. And so they create distance. They pull back. They go quiet. They make excuses. They become suddenly busy. And you are left there completely confused because everything felt so good just days ago. Now here is what most people do wrong in this moment. And I say most people because this is the natural human response. You feel the distance and you lean in harder. You text more. You ask what is wrong. You try to fix it. You try to reassure them. You maybe even tell them how much you like them, hoping that your honesty will break down their walls. But what that actually does for an avoidant person is confirm their fear. It says to their nervous system, see, this person is going to consume me. This person needs more than I can give. This is exactly what I was afraid of. And they pull back even further. Or you do the other thing, the thing everyone tells you to do. You go completely silent. You disappear. You play the game. And look, sometimes space helps. But silence alone, strategic silence designed to manipulate them into chasing you, often backfires too. Because an avoidant person who feels chased will enjoy the space. They will use it to decompress and detach. They will tell themselves it is easier this way, that they did not really need this anyway. And before you know it, what started as a mutual feeling of something real has fizzled into nothing because both of you just stopped showing up. So what do you do instead? That is where soft contact comes in. The first thing you need to understand about soft contact is that it is not a trick. It is not manipulation. It is not a strategy to pull someone back who was never right for you. Soft contact is a way of communicating that keeps the door open without putting pressure on the door frame. It is presence without weight. It is warmth without desperation. And it is designed specifically to work with the avoidant person's wiring rather than against it. Here is the fundamental principle behind it. An avoidant person does not run from connection. They run from obligation. They run from the feeling that someone needs them in a way they cannot meet. They run from the heaviness of expectation. So when you remove the weight, when you show up in a way that is light and genuine and has no desperate energy attached to it, you stop triggering their alarm system. And that is when they start to relax. That is when curiosity begins to replace avoidance. That is when they start to wonder about you instead of running from you. Let me give you the actual method now, broken down into steps you can use starting today. Step 1 is what I call the clean pause. Before you reach out to an avoidant person, before you do anything, you need to actually give yourself a genuine pause, not a strategic one, not a calculated number of days based on something you read online. A real pause, time where you are not focused on them, time where you are living your own life, doing things that matter to you, being around people who fill you up, pursuing things that make you feel good about yourself. Why does this matter? 2 reasons. First, it changes your energy. When you reach out to someone from a place of genuine okayness rather than desperate need, it comes through in everything you say, in the words you choose, in the tone of your message, in the feeling behind it. From everything I have observed in my research, avoidant people are extremely sensitive to emotional subtext. They can feel need through a screen. They can sense desperation in a 3-word text. So you need to be genuinely in a good place before you reach out, not performing okayness, actually being okay. The second reason the clean pause matters is that it gives the avoidant person actual space to feel the absence of you. If you have been in constant contact and then suddenly pull back, they will not immediately miss you. But over time, if the relationship had real substance, they will start to feel the gap. They will notice that the little moments of warmth you brought are no longer there, and that noticing creates the opening you need. So how long should the pause be? It depends on the situation. If things were casual and they pulled back suddenly, a week or 2 is usually a good baseline. If it was a longer relationship with a real connection, give yourself a bit more time. But the number is less important than the quality of how you spend that time. Ask yourself honestly, are you actually working on yourself? Are you getting to a place of genuine peace? Or are you just white-knuckling through days, counting down until you can reach out again? Because one of those will make your outreach land, and the other will carry all the wrong energy. Step 2 is crafting the soft contact message. This is the most important part of the method, and it is also where most people mess up, even the ones who manage to wait and give themselves space. They undermine all of it with the wrong message. So let me tell you exactly what soft contact looks and feels like, and also what it does not look like. Soft contact is not, "Hey, I have been thinking about you a lot." That puts pressure on them immediately. It tells them that during your time apart, you were focused on them. It invites them to feel responsible for your emotional state. Soft contact is not, "I miss you. Are you okay?" The first 3 words are all about your need. The question puts them in the position of managing your feelings. Soft contact is not, "I just wanted to check in." That is code for, "I am thinking about you and I need to know where we stand." Avoidant people can read between the lines better than almost anyone. And soft contact is definitely not a long message laying out your feelings, your thoughts about the relationship, your hopes, your fears, all of it poured into one text at midnight. That is the emotional equivalent of someone running at them full speed. Their instinct will be to dodge. So what is soft contact? Soft contact is something small, something real, something that has nothing to do with the relationship and everything to do with them as a person. It might be sharing something that genuinely reminded you of them. Not in a romantically loaded way, just something that made you think of them in a natural human way. For example, "Hey, I just walked past that place we talked about and ended up going in. You were right. It is incredible. It is light. It is real. It is warm. It does not ask anything of them. It does not demand a response. It does not carry weight. It just says, I am still here. I thought of you. No big deal. Or it might be something that taps into a shared interest. Maybe you both loved a certain show, a genre of music, or a type of food. You send something small connected to that. Not this made me miss you, just a brief, natural, genuine share. Something you might send a good friend. The tone is the key here. The tone is the entire thing. It needs to feel relaxed, unhurried, like you have a life and you are living it, and you just happen to think of them in the middle of it. One more thing about the soft contact message. It should not need a reply. And by that, I do not mean you should say, no need to reply, because that is actually a form of pressure disguised as understanding. I mean, the message itself should be complete. It should not end with a question that demands an answer. It should not be a cliffhanger that leaves them feeling obligated. It should just be a moment of warmth they can receive without feeling like they owe you anything. When you remove that expectation, something interesting happens. Most people actually want to reply because the pressure is gone, because they can engage without feeling like engaging means committing. And for an avoidant person, that feeling of being able to connect without feeling trapped is the most attractive thing you can offer them. Step 3 is what I call holding the line emotionally. This is where a lot of people fall apart. Because the soft contact message works, they send something light and real, and the avoidant person actually responds. And suddenly all that pent-up emotion comes rushing back. They want to pour everything out. They want to get answers. They want to have the big conversation about what went wrong, where things stand, what this means. I completely understand that impulse. When someone you care about shows up again, every instinct says, now. Talk about it now. Do not let this moment pass. But with an avoidant person, that is exactly the moment to hold back. The conversation they are having with you right now is casual. It is light. It is them testing the water. They are checking to see if it is safe. If you are the same person who felt heavy to them before, or if something has shifted, and the moment you turn a light exchange into an intense emotional conversation, you have answered their question, and the answer you have given them is, nope, still the same, still heavy, still a lot. So what do you do instead? You match their energy. You keep it light. You enjoy the conversation. You let them be the version of themselves that shows up easily, without walls, because the stakes feel low. You laugh. You share. You be interesting, genuine, and present. And you resist with everything you have the urge to bring up the past, the future, or the state of things between you. Because right now, this moment is doing more work than any conversation you could have. It is building something in them. It is building evidence. Evidence that being around you feels good. Evidence that you are not going to chase them or corner them or make them feel guilty. And the more of that evidence they collect, the more they want to keep coming back for more. Step 4 is what I call the elevation point. This is the part that takes the soft contact method from a reconnection tool to something that actually shifts the dynamic long term. The elevation point is when, after a few positive exchanges, after you have rebuilt some warmth and ease between you, you do something completely unexpected for an avoidant person. You show them that you have standards, not in an aggressive way, not in a confrontational way, but in a quiet, confident, self-respecting way that communicates, I like you, and I am also someone who knows what I want. For example, if they start going warm and then pull back again, you do not chase. You do not ask why. You simply continue living your life and let the silence speak for itself. Or if they reach out and suggest getting together, but in a vague, non-committal way, you respond with warmth, but you also bring clarity. You say something like, sounds good. I am free Thursday evening if you want to lock something in. You are not demanding a commitment. You are just being someone who respects their own time enough to make plans rather than wait around on a maybe. This matters enormously to an avoidant person. Because in my experience, most of the people who pursue them eventually abandon their own sense of self in the process. They become so focused on the avoidant that they lose their own groundedness. And the avoidant senses this, and it makes them feel more powerful in the dynamic, which ironically makes them want to run more, not less. But when you hold on to yourself, when you show them that you have a life, that you have standards, that you will not collapse into them, something in the avoidant person shifts. They stop seeing you as a threat to their independence. They start seeing you as someone worth being around, someone who will not consume them, someone who is actually safe to get close to. And here is the part that is almost poetic. The very qualities that make someone attractive to an avoidant are often the qualities that person lost while chasing them. The groundedness, the self-possession, the sense of being complete on your own. Those are the things that create real attraction. Not the pleading, not the strategic silence, not the games, just genuine wholeness. And the beautiful thing about the soft contact method is that it is built on that foundation. It forces you to do the inner work. The clean pause, the genuine okayness, the holding the line emotionally, all of it requires you to actually be whole, not just seem whole, actually be it. And as you do that work, something unexpected happens. You realize that whether or not they come back matters a little less, not because you stopped caring about them, but because you started caring about yourself just as much. Now let us talk about what happens after the elevation point. If you have followed the method, done the clean pause, sent the soft contact, held the line, and shown your standards, there are a few ways this can go. The first is that they start showing up more consistently. The messages become more frequent. They start suggesting things to do together. They start opening up a little. They start to feel like the person you originally connected with, maybe even more so, because now they feel safe. Now they know you are not going to swallow them whole. This is the outcome the method is designed to create. When it happens, your job is to let it. Let them come forward. Do not rush it. Do not suddenly switch from soft contact to intense relationship conversations. Let them set the pace for a while. Reciprocate with warmth. Be present. Be real. And over time, as trust builds, you can introduce more depth, more vulnerability, more of the real conversation. But do it gradually. Always leave them feeling like they have room to breathe. The second way it can go is that they respond here and there, but never quite commit. They stay in that in-between space, warm but distant, interested but unavailable. And here is where you need to be honest with yourself. How long are you willing to wait in an in-between space? How much of your emotional energy are you giving to someone who cannot decide if they want to be in your life? Because soft contact is powerful, but it is not a magic spell. It cannot override someone's deep unwillingness to change. It can create the conditions for an avoidant person to feel safe enough to come forward, but it cannot drag them forward. And some avoidant people, the ones who have never done any work on themselves, the ones so deeply entrenched in their patterns that any closeness genuinely feels unbearable, some of them will never fully come forward, no matter what you do. And you have to be willing to accept that. Not as a failure, not as a reflection of your worth, but as information about who they are and what they are capable of right now. The third way it can go is that they come back strong. Suddenly, after a period of quiet, they are all in, texting constantly, making plans, showing all the warmth and interest they seemed to hide before. And this is actually the trickiest scenario. It is easy to mistake a surge of enthusiasm for a permanent shift. But an avoidant person who has not done their own inner work will often cycle. They come close, it gets too real, they pull back. You give them space, they miss you. They come close again. If you are not careful, you will find yourself in a loop that feels like a relationship, but is actually just the push and pull of an unresolved pattern. So when they come back strong, enjoy it. Be warm, be present. But also watch for consistency over time. Because enthusiasm in the moment is lovely, but it is consistency that tells you whether things have actually changed. Now, let me talk about something that does not come up enough in these conversations. What about your emotions through all of this? Everything I have described requires a level of emotional regulation that is genuinely hard. Holding back when every instinct says to lean in. Being light when you feel heavy. Maintaining standards when you are terrified of pushing them away. It is not easy. And it is okay to admit that. In fact, acknowledging how hard it is, even just to yourself, is part of the process. Because part of why you are so caught up in this person Part of why their pulling away affects you so deeply might have something to do with your own attachment patterns too. I say that not to add another weight to your plate, but because understanding your own patterns is the thing that will actually set you free. Not just from this situation, but from the pattern of getting into dynamics like this over and over again. If you find yourself repeatedly drawn to avoidant people, if you feel most intensely about those who are not fully available, that is worth sitting with. Because what often feels like chemistry is actually the familiarity of an old pattern. The way someone's unavailability mirrors a person from your past who taught you that love means working for it, earning it, waiting for it. And that realization, once it really lands, changes everything. You stop seeing the avoidant as someone you need to win. You start seeing them as a person with their own wounds, their own fears, their own capacity for growth or lack of it. And you start making choices based on what is actually good for you, not just what feels familiar. So let me bring this back to where we started. You want to know how to bring someone back, how to make an avoidant person stop running and start leaning in. And the answer is both simpler and harder than most people expect. You stop trying to make them do anything. You stop managing their emotions and start honoring your own. You show up with warmth, but without desperation. You communicate presence, but without obligation. You hold your standards, not as a power play, but as an expression of genuine self-respect. And you do the inner work to actually be okay, not just seem okay, so that the energy you bring into every interaction is the energy of someone who is genuinely whole. That is what soft contact is at its core. It is not a technique layered over anxiety. It is an expression of someone who has done the work to be genuinely centered, and who chooses from that place of centeredness to extend warmth to another person, without making that warmth contingent on a particular response. And when an avoidant person, who is used to people either chasing them or playing games, encounters that kind of presence, it stops them in their tracks. It makes them feel something they do not usually feel with someone who is attracted to them. It makes them feel safe. And safety, for an avoidant person, is the most powerful force in existence. Because what they have always wanted, underneath all the running and the walls and the distance, is exactly what everyone wants. To be close to someone without losing themselves. To be loved without being consumed. To choose connection because it feels good. Not because someone is making them feel guilty for pulling away.